Good afternoon and welcome to another inReach Field Experience webinar. Today we'll be talking about how to choose an inReach device. Before we get started, my name is Chip Noble. I'm a product manager here at Garmin. And as you can see by this somewhat goofy picture from earlier in my career, I am a collector of outdoor gear. I am also an experienced retail store clerk. I started my career back when we were at Delorme prior to the Garmin acquisition as a tech support clerk working in the map store. I'm going to be using that skill today to talk with all of you about which inReach device might be right for you as you look to purchase perhaps a gift for a friend or family member. And I'm also an inReach user. So when I worked in the map store, people would come in and they would be interested in buying something, maybe for themselves, but quite often a gift. And usually when they came through the door, they already had an idea of what we carried. But I wanted to give some additional details, and we've covered all of these topics in our previous inReach webinar, so you can learn more on the support site. But to cover at a high level, for the person who is interested in inReach technology, what does it offer? And so I want to make sure everyone knows that an inReach device is capable of sending and receiving messages anywhere in the world using the Iridium satellite network. That network has 100% global coverage. The inReach device is capable of tracking your location, and you can share that location on a website called MapShare. And that's where you would go to share your journey. If you have an emergency while you're out using the device, you can trigger an SOS. And that SOS message would go to our partner GEOS Search and Rescue, and that's a 24/7 monitoring service. And for those of you that remember our webinar with GEOS, you can learn a lot if you go again to the support site for information there. You can use the device to request a weather forecast. You can also navigate either along a route or to a waypoint. You can use the inReach device to pair to your smartphone and use one of our companion apps, the EarthMate app or the Explore app. And you can also use the Garmin website, the Explore website, for planning. So there are a lot of things that you can do with an inReach device, and that will work with all of our inReach devices. Today we're going to talk about how to narrow down the choices to find the right solution for the gift that you're thinking about. So as we begin that conversation, really, as I mentioned, there are several models that have inReach built into them, and you see them here. And I sometimes refer to an elevator pitch, or if I have 30 seconds to talk to someone who's come in with interest in inReach, what is the most important thing that I'm going to share with them? And you see that here in the bullets below each of these devices. So if we look at the inReach Mini, and you can see it immediately right there in the picture, but the thing that makes the Mini stand out is its size. It is lightweight and compact. It's 3.5 ounces. This is a great device for people who are trail running or in the go light category for backpacking, or really any activity where size matters, and they want it to be as light and small or even discreet as possible. From there, we look at the inReach Explorer Plus. This is the first device in the lineup that has the topographic maps, and because it's still primarily a satellite communication device, it doesn't offer more of the premium handheld features. We can do some things like powering off and sleeping in between messages. So it has the longest battery life out of any of the devices we offer. So a buttoned interface for standalone use, topographic maps, and best battery. When we move to the GPS Map 66i, and we just recently did several webinars on the 66i, it's our brand new device. It's a flagship Garmin handheld plus inReach satellite communication. You bring the best-in-class handheld features. That is a digital compass, accelerometer, barometric altimeter. It has the ability to do navigation. It has road and trail routing, and it has Garmin mapping. So that's the Topo Active map. It is the aerial imagery, bird's eye direct aerial imagery. It's the quad sheets. All of that capable in that 66i. And then moving from there, a new device that has been released recently is the GPS Map 86i and the 86SCI. That device is in the marine space, and it has marine charts, as well as all the capabilities of the GPS Map 66. So same premium handheld device plus marine charts, and you can see it's a little bit larger device. This device floats if you drop it in the water, which is great for a marine product. Looking at the full set of devices that are available in the product line, we wanted to, from there, help people understand which one might I choose as a gift. And so as we think about that, we talk first, well, who is it that you're shopping for? And so these slides are going to be broken out to show a series of examples of different types of people, and then some questions that you might answer to help you decide which gift to get them. And these are recommendations. This is my opinion as the product manager. Obviously, I've worked on the designs for all of these devices, but a takeaway with this piece is that really all of our devices will work in all of these different scenarios, but some are better equipped for them. So it's a recommendation, but listen to all the information and then make your own decisions with that information as to what might be best for your gift. So to get started, the first type of user that we're shopping for is a hiker or a backpacker. And you see here, this is Leslie. She's a member of the Garmin team, and this is a picture from her last trip out to Utah. She is an active hiker and backpacker. And so one of the questions that I would ask a person who came into the store, say, well, what is Leslie interested in? Hiking, backpacking? Okay. Do you know if she likes to pack light so that she can move quickly, or is she more interested in the full featured navigation capabilities of a device? And she's already carrying a 30-pound pack, and so it's important to have that extra feature. So if the answer for Leslie is that she likes to travel fast and light, she wants a real small device, she's going to be carrying her phone with her anyway. A lot of people are in that category. I would recommend the inReach Mini. At 3.5 ounces, it comes complete with all of the GPS capabilities. If you're in motion, it has a compass page. It can show you information there. And the key is that it pairs with your phone. It pairs with your Garmin device like your watch. So you could pair it with your Phoenix or your Instinct. And you'd have everything that you need. And you clip the inReach Mini. It's more of an accessory to your mobile device. It clips to your pack. It's out of the way and gives you everything you need for satellite communication, messaging, tracking, and SOS. If instead the answer was, well, Leslie's really interested in the navigation capabilities of a handheld device, and she may have her phone, but she's got it tucked away in her pack, and she just wants to be able to quickly reference a standalone device. So she could use the inReach Explorer Plus, and we talked about that when I covered the lineup, but that has topographic maps built into it. It does have the best battery life because in between track interval where it wakes up and sends your location to MapShare, the device goes into a full sleep mode. And it also is a basic navigation device. It has the compass, it has the ability to follow a route that was created ahead of time, and it does have waypoints and that sort of thing, but it's generally a basic device. If Leslie was interested in more advanced functionality, then I would direct the person shopping for her to consider the GPS Map 66i. As we've already said, this is a flagship device. It has the Topo map, Garmin Topo Active Map built into it. It is capable of a bird's eye direct download of aerial imagery. That's great. Particularly this picture here showing Leslie hiking in Utah, where you can actually see the trails in the aerial imagery. It's a very exciting feature. I've used it quite a bit. And the device has enhanced navigation, and we'll look at some of these enhanced features on some of the other slides, but the idea that you can calculate a route, you can get calculations from the device in, for distances, you can average waypoints, you can do a bunch of special things with the full handheld features. So for a person shopping for a hiker or backpacker, those would be our recommendations. inReach Mini for fast and light, and then a choice of the Explorer Plus or the 66i if you're interested in navigation. So if the answer to the question of who you're shopping for was a trail runner, we have a picture here of Katie. She's also a member of our Garmin team. This is a picture of her summiting Mount Katahdin. That's the northern terminus of the Appalachian Trail for anyone interested in a trip to Maine. We would obviously recommend the inReach Mini to Katie because you can see she has her light pack on there, her hydration pack for trail running. And the inReach Mini, again, at 3.5 ounces, that's about all the weight that we would want to put into that pack, so they don't even notice that it's there. Again, it has built into it the GPS and compass and navigation. It can pair with your watch. You see on Katie's wrist, I believe that that is a Phoenix. She's wearing a Garmin watch that can pair using Ant Plus technology to her Mini, so that when someone sends her a message, her watch on her wrist buzzes and she can glance down and see the message that came into her. She can reply to it with a quick text. She can start and stop tracking, and if she had an emergency, you can see that she could trigger an SOS from that watch. From there, I would ask an additional question, and actually I described the watch that Katie has. You could use the device all by itself. If you had the need to send a message, to check in, to trigger an SOS, you can do it from the device. I already described the convenience of having that information right on your wrist. And we just wanted to share, there are different models inside the Garmin family for wearables. We talk about the Phoenix here on the left, and that's a great watch because it's really designed for backcountry travel. It's designed for trail hiking and running. The Forerunner in the middle is more of a fitness watch, has all of the fitness capabilities. The idea that the Phoenix is more for backcountry, the Forerunner more for fitness, and then the Instinct is a new lineup from Garmin, and that is an affordable, rugged watch that has similar capabilities in a slightly different form factor. The key takeaway is that these three classes of watches all pair with the inReach Mini to expand on the capabilities of the system. So for the trail runner, consider the inReach Mini and pairing it with the Garmin wearable. The next type of person that you might be shopping for is the hunter or the angler. And here's a great picture of Scott in the duck blind. This was last fall, and I took this picture. That was a great day. And so the real question for the duck hunter or the person heading into the woods or even out fishing is, well, what type of conditions will your friend or family member be involved in when they're out there? And I can tell you on this particular day, even though Scott doesn't have his glove on right now, I was pretty cold. And when you have a glove on, you want to be able to use a device that has a buttoned interface. And if it's snowing, or this was a particularly muddy day too, you may not want to take your phone out. So we'll break our answers down based on that. So if it's mild conditions, when I upland bird hunt, that's in October, and quite often it's warm and sunny and the weather's good, I can take my phone out. In those situations, I would take the inReach Mini and I would pair it to my phone, and I would clip the inReach Mini to my bird vest. For the duck hunting that we see here, or maybe for folks going out on a big elk hunt where it's definitely cold and snowy, you're at elevation, all these different pieces, then you would want to consider a device with a button interface. So the inReach Explorer Plus and the 66i have the buttoned interface that allow you to use it with a big thick glove on your hand. Both devices offer topographic maps. The inReach Explorer has a longer battery life, but doesn't have quite the advanced navigation capabilities and handheld GPS capabilities of the 66i. And you see here calling out again the topo maps, the aerial imagery, USGS quad sheets. For hunting in particular, it has a sun-moon page, so it tells you sunrise and sunset. And it also has a hunt fish page, and it uses those solunar tables that give you a prediction based on the lunar cycle and the time of year, and that will help predict how the hunting and fishing activity is going to be. So three options there for the hunter: the inReach Mini if it's mild conditions, and a choice between the Explorer Plus and the 66i if it looks like you might have a glove or be experiencing some inclement weather. From here, if you are shopping for a cyclist, we have a great picture here of Dana, who actually helps me with these webinars. She and I have ridden the trek across Maine numerous times, and this is her in mountain biking mode. And so for the mountain biker, we would recommend for Dana the inReach Mini. And you can see, much like Katie, she has on her hydration pack and the ability to carry her satellite communicator, but we want to keep the weight light so she can enjoy her mountain biking without being impacted by the additional weight. Something that we're very excited about, we've just recently announced the compatibility with the Garmin Edge cycle computer. And so that's exciting because it means Dana can have that device in her pack, and much like Katie can look at her wrist when she's trail running, Dana doesn't really want to let go of the handlebars, especially mountain biking, or she would have a crash. So she doesn't have to look at her wrist. She can just look down at her cycle computer, and I'll show you, there's an implication there that she has paired it with one of these Edge devices. So as we've talked about with all these different activities, she could use it standalone just by itself, but she can really enhance the experience by getting one of these cycle computers and pairing her inReach Mini. And so then when a message comes in, it will appear right on her handlebars on that heads-up display, show her who the message came from, and even give her a preview so that she can, at a glance, decide if she wants to stop and reply or continue on with her ride. Showing 3 different models here. Again, go to the Garmin website if you want to dig in deep to the differences between these models, but I can tell you all 3 of these are supported by the inReach Mini for pairing. Looking at aviation, this is our Garmin teammate Josh. He is a pilot, and for him there are a couple of options for folks out shopping for Josh. You could choose the inReach Mini or the Explorer Plus, and the reason we picked those 2 devices is because they are both compatible with the Garmin Pilot app. And for the Aviator, there are several features that are particularly interesting, and so they support the Leidos flight services and adverse condition alerting services. These are weather related and notifying the pilot by inReach messaging like that while they're up there. There are also features around surveillance for search and rescue and reporting, and those are around trip planning and tracking the aircraft during flight, so that if it doesn't check in when it's supposed to, the system is monitoring and can generate alerts. And obviously, if there are pilots listening in on this call, they'll recognize what those features are and know even more about it. The key here for additional capabilities of the system is if you use the Garmin Pilot app, you can pair with the inReach Mini or with the inReach Explorer Plus. And right from the app, you can do the sending and receiving of text messages and sending your tracking data out through MapShare. So the app acts like your remote control, and then your Mini and your Explorer Plus are the antenna that you would use with them, mounted in the airplane. So some great options there. Again, go to Garmin.com to learn more about Garmin Pilot, but know that there is compatibility between the Mini and the Explorer Plus. From here, I'd like to talk a little bit about folks who are shopping for people in this relatively, well, I want to say new for us, the off-road overlander community. And Don is another product manager actually at Garmin, and he actually is the product manager for the Overlander series of devices that have just been released by Garmin. And this is one of his photos, and unfortunately he was out solo, so he wasn't able to get into the picture, but this is his rig. So if the question comes back, who are you shopping for? I'm shopping for someone who goes off-road. We're going to need to know, is that person traveling in a large vehicle like a truck or an SUV or an Overlander vehicle? Or are they traveling on something smaller like an ATV or a snow machine? And once we know the answer to that question, then we can break it off and say, okay, if you're like Don, someone shopping for Don, they should get him an inReach Mini, which can pair with an Overlander device. And that Overlander device allows him to have that mounted, and the inReach Mini is, again, an antenna that's off on the side, and that gives him his topographic mapping. It gives him the ability to message, send and receive messages, declare an SOS, that sort of thing. There is a note here. While I recommended the inReach Mini, the Overlander does pair with the inReach Explorer Plus as well. So if Don wanted to get to his destination and then take his Iridium inReach capable device with him, he could take the inReach Explorer Plus out and go. There are also powered mounts available for the inReach Mini and the inReach Explorer Plus. So the Overlander, great tool. It uses the topographic maps from Explore. It connects with the Mini. It also has all of the road routing capabilities of our automotive devices, and lots of really exciting things for the overlander, tilt sensors, and points of interest database, and some great things tucked into that overlander product. Learn more about it on our website. For folks who don't have the big vehicle but do have an ATV or a snow machine, and they want to get out into the backcountry, we would recommend the GPS Map 66i. And the reason for that is because there is a powered mount for the 66i. You could mount it to your snow machine and give it external power. That gives you all the battery life that you need right from the vehicle that you're traveling with. Gives you access to the topographic maps, the bird's eye satellite imagery, the quad sheets, all the things we've talked about before. It also gives you on-device route calculation. So very useful because you're on a road or a trail, would be my guess, with one of those vehicles, and you can calculate the route's automatic calculation along those trails. So that's a feature that you only find in that flagship handheld device of the GPS Map 66i. So for the off-roader, what size vehicle, truck or ATV, inReach Mini and Overlander. For the larger vehicles, ATV or snowmobile, we'd recommend the 66i. From here, and you might have seen this picture in a previous webinar talking about fishing and a great offshore fishing trip that one of my buddies took me on. But for the boater or the paddler, we're really going to focus on a question of what type of vessel are they in, and do they have any other Garmin products? And you'll see that breaks down along the lines of if someone has a chart plotter on the boat with them, or perhaps some of the other Garmin products around controlling the audio on your boat or that sort of thing. We would recommend the inReach Mini, because you can pair the inReach Mini to a chart plotter, and then that chart plotter, much like the Overlander, much like Garmin Pilot, the chart plotter is in command of the system, and information from the Mini pipes into your chart plotter. So for the person who owns a large vessel, or a vessel that has a chart plotter built into it, it's not always a large one. I know plenty of people who have smaller boats with a center console. But the key is, if you have that Garmin chart plotter, pair with the inReach Mini and you'll have a good experience. For folks who are trying to use the device all by itself and standalone, or possibly paired with their phone, but maybe they're in a smaller, an ocean kayak or a canoe, or just a small boat that doesn't have any other electronics in it, then we would definitely recommend the 86i. The 86i is also good for larger boats that have the ability for the autopilot. You can control the autopilot on your boat with the 86i. So connecting to chart plotters, connecting to the Fusion audio systems, the 86i can act as an autopilot controller. And it also contains the blue chart. So you can see where at one level it has everything you need to be standalone, and you could use it in the smaller rigs, smaller vessels. And the other end, it acts as a remote control for autopilot and Fusion, which are associated with the bigger boats. For someone who is trying to just pair with the chart plotter, the inReach Mini. For someone with the other needs, consider the 86i. And again, check out our website for more information on the marine products. From here, imagine that you're shopping for someone like our good friend here, Kevin, from the Garmin team. And this is Kevin and his wife, and they are someplace tropical. They're definitely not here in Maine in November with the pretty blue water like that in the background. As an international traveler, when we look to shop for Kevin, we definitely want to talk about the inReach Mini. And that is because it's a small device, and it's also discreet. You're not carrying a large, expensive looking piece of technology of a discreet small black satellite communicator. You can tuck it in your jacket pocket. You could put it in your purse. You could put it someplace out of the way. And it gives you the full capabilities of the system. You have messaging, tracking, and SOS, 100% global coverage. It works anywhere in the world. And the nice thing for any of you who have traveled internationally, you always have that question of, what do I have to do to get my cell phone to work? Am I going to pay roaming charges? Is it going to be an expensive thing? The inReach satellite communicator doesn't change in its billing as you move around the world, it's still the same data plan that you chose when you got the device for use here in the States. So don't have to worry about those roaming charges. You can also share your trip progress on MapShare. So that's a great feature. When Kevin is traveling, he can send a link to MapShare and we can all follow along and send him MapShare messages while he's trying to enjoy his vacation. So a little note here at the bottom about how MapShare works. And we've talked about this on many of our different webinars, but the idea that Kevin has a Where's Kevin MapShare, and we all go to it and we see his breadcrumb trail for his stroll, leisurely stroll along the beach here. And if he sees anything exciting, he can write a note to MapShare, and when we go to look at his social media MapShare site, we see those notes. We can also use it to send him messages if he turns on that capability. And there's a note down there at the bottom that you have to be aware of the places where you're traveling, because not all countries allow for satellite communicators. And so definitely check that if you're traveling to a unique destination. It's good to know so that you don't get stopped when you go to enter the country. So just double check the rules around satellite communication when you travel. So that covered the different the different use cases, the different types of people that you might be shopping for. We wanted to do a quick device recap just to cover, again, the reasons for those 4 different devices. The inReach Mini highlight, it's about being small and rugged and lightweight. It's a very small device at 3.5 ounces. It pairs with all of those exciting compatible devices. We talked about our wearables, we talked about our cycle computers, Garmin Pilot, the Overlander, those different products. Jumping through to the inReach Explorer Plus, the real strong selling point for this is around the battery life, because the device really is focused on satellite communication. It has a buttoned interface, so you can use it wearing gloves if it's cold or inclement weather. And then it does have the topographic maps, which is great for people using it in standalone. From there, the device does have an altimeter, a barometer, and a digital compass. So some highlights for the Explorer Plus. Looking at the 66i, it is a considerably larger display. It's sunlight readable. It's a great display in the 66i. It also comes preloaded. We talked about the TopoActive maps. We talked about the detail that you can get in there. It has one thing I failed to mention earlier, and I should have, is that you can load an SD card into the GPS Map 66i, which makes it really more expandable than the Explorer Plus when it comes to mapping. It has the direct to device bird's eye satellite imagery. This means when you're out traveling, you can, or as you're planning, you can download aerial imagery for use in the field. And as I mentioned with Leslie and her hike in Utah, if you don't have tree cover blocking the trails, you can see some really neat detail in aerial imagery for the area where you're traveling, or maybe you're following a river or something like that. You can get a lot of great detail out of aerial imagery. And the last piece is some of the more advanced navigation features. And so you see 2 things here. One is the compass, but the other is that great elevation profile. And then the last one here that's important is it pairs with compatible Garmin products. So looking at the 86i, again, we talked about this is that marine device. It has the same functionality as the 66i, but it floats. While the Mini can pair with a chart plotter, an 86i can pair with a chart plotter and control things remotely, like the autopilot and that Fusion speaker system. And so here's an actual screenshot of the Fusion system. So for the boaters, please go to the website. You'll get a better description of it, but the key is that the 86i is really integrated into the marine system. And the last one is the very important charts. And you see in a couple of these screenshots the inReach capabilities as well. So you get a notification about a message headed back to the marina there. So a lot of great features for the 86i. So here's a chart. This is really just kind of tying together everything we talked about. A lot of folks, when they consider a purchase, will look at a spec sheet like this. For folks looking for additional resources, we show this slide at the end of each webinar. There is the Garmin Explore website, explore.garmin.com. That's where all of our inReach users go to look at their inReach plan and manage their account and do their planning and exploring. There's also the Garmin support site, and we We really have a lot of great information up there, documentation, manuals, product videos created by our marketing team, and prior webinars that Dana and I have worked on. And so support.garmin.com is a good site, as well as the Garmin blog. If you go to garmin.com/blog, you can see the latest in inReach adventures and SOS stories. So we'll open it up here for some questions, and hopefully everyone found the information useful.